50 investors, 1 Zoom call, 12 seconds of footage, over 30 million views in 48 hours. Those are the numbers behind one of the biggest corporate scandals to ever go viral. But here's the number that matters most: 0. That's how many seconds it took for a tech executive's mistress to walk into frame. During a live investor meeting before his entire life started falling apart, his wife was watching, his colleagues were watching, and thanks to someone hitting the record button, the entire world was about to watch too. This is the story of how one Zoom background fail became a career-ending, marriage-destroying, internet-breaking disaster. It was supposed to be the easiest part of Marcus Chen's week, a routine quarterly investor update. 50 venture capitalists and board members dialing in from across the country to hear about the company's growth projections. As VP of Business Development at a rapidly growing tech startup called Vertex Solutions, Marcus had done these presentations dozens of times. The morning of the call, he chose to work from home. His luxury downtown apartment had become his remote office setup during the past few years, complete with a professionally lit background showing tasteful bookshelves and minimal decor. His wife, Rebecca, worked at the same company, 3 floors down in their building, managing the marketing department from her own home office. Marcus had the presentation loaded, his notes ready, and his coffee within reach. The call was scheduled for 10 a.m. At 9:58, he logged in, adjusted his camera angle one final time, and straightened his tie. By 10:02, all 50 participants had joined. The CEO opened with brief remarks, then handed it over to Marcus for the financial overview. Everything was going perfectly. Marcus moved through his slides with confidence, highlighting revenue growth, new client acquisitions, and expansion plans. Investors nodded along. Some took notes. A few asked clarifying questions, which Marcus answered smoothly. This was his element. He was crushing it. What Marcus didn't know was that someone wasn't alone in the apartment, and that someone had no idea he was on camera. At exactly 10:17 a.m., while Marcus was explaining a particularly impressive growth metric, movement appeared in his background. At first, it was barely noticeable, a blur of motion near the doorway behind him. But then, crystal clear in high-definition video, a woman walked into frame. She was wearing a white towel wrapped around her body and had clearly just gotten out of the shower. Her hair was wet. She was holding a phone and appeared to be texting someone, completely unaware that she was now visible to 50 people in a corporate video call. The reaction was instant. Participants on the call fell silent. Some turned off their cameras immediately. Others sat frozen, unsure what to do. One investor could be heard saying "oh no" before muting himself. Marcus, focused on his presentation and looking at his slides on a second monitor, didn't notice the change in energy at first. The woman walked casually toward what appeared to be the kitchen, still visible in the background. Then she noticed something, looked directly at the camera, and her face transformed into an expression of pure horror. She dropped her phone. Her hand went to her mouth, and then she ran out of frame so fast she nearly slipped on the hardwood floor. That's when Marcus finally sensed something was wrong. He glanced at the participant gallery on his screen and saw faces ranging from shock to awkward discomfort to barely suppressed laughter. His stomach dropped. "Is everything? Is my camera okay?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly. The CEO, trying to maintain professionalism, cleared his throat. "Marcus, let's take a 5-minute break and resume." But it was too late. The damage was done, and someone had been recording the entire thing. Marcus ended the call immediately, his hands shaking as he closed his laptop. Behind him, the woman, whose name was Isabel Laurent, emerged from the hallway now wearing his robe, her face pale with panic. "Marcus, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were, not now." He cut her off, his mind racing through every possible worst-case scenario. But there was one scenario he hadn't considered yet, the one that would make this exponentially worse. His phone buzzed. A text from his wife, Rebecca. "We need to talk. Now." His head snapped. Rebecca had been on that call, not as an active participant, but as someone copied on the invite who had tuned in to listen while working on other tasks. She'd been listening to her husband's presentation, proud of him, multitasking through email. When she looked up at her screen and saw another woman in her apartment, a woman Marcus had promised stopped existing in his life 6 months ago. When Rebecca first discovered the affair, that first discovery had been devastating. Marcus had sworn it was over. They'd gone to counseling. Rebecca had chosen to try to save their 8-year marriage. She'd chosen to trust him again. And now, in the most public way possible, she'd just learned he'd been lying for 6 months. Within the apartment building, Rebecca was already packing a bag. By the time Marcus tried calling her, she'd blocked his number. By the time he took the elevator down to her floor, she'd changed the locks he didn't know she'd already changed weeks earlier. When she started suspecting something was off again. But Rebecca's reaction was only the beginning, because while Marcus was frantically trying to reach his wife, the video was already spreading. It started with one person, someone on that investor call, whether out of malice, stupidity, or sheer inability to resist the urge to share something this wild, recorded the moment and sent it to a friend. That friend sent it to a group chat. Someone in that group chat posted it on Twitter without names or company information, but with the caption, "Most awkward Zoom call in history." Within 2 hours, the clip had 500,000 views. By the end of the day, it crossed 10 million. TikTok picked it up. Reddit's various subreddits dissected every frame. And then the internet detectives got to work, using visible details in the distinctive bookshelf arrangement, reflections in a mirror, and even the architectural style of the windows. Online sleuths began narrowing down possible locations. Someone recognized the building. Someone else recognized Marcus from a professional conference photo. By midnight, his name was trending. Tech VP Marcus Chen caught with mistress on investor call while wife watched, read one headline. The story hit business news sites, gossip blogs, and even mainstream media. The video was being recreated by comedians, memed into oblivion, and dissected from every possible angle. Marcus's LinkedIn was flooded with connection requests from journalists, and comments ranging from mockery to judgment to occasional sympathy. His company's social media accounts were bombarded with questions and jokes. Vertex Solutions stock, which was privately traded but tracked by market analysts, saw investor confidence drop immediately. Meanwhile, Isabel Laurent, who'd successfully kept her own identity private for about 18 hours, was eventually identified through her own social media posts that matched timestamps and locations. Her own professional reputation, she was a marketing consultant for several major brands, began taking hits as clients quietly distanced themselves from the association. But the person everyone felt sympathy for was Rebecca Chen. Strangers, who'd never met her, rallied to her defense across social media. Imagine being betrayed like that and finding out in front of 50 people read one viral tweet with 2 million likes. Her professional colleagues reached out with support. Even people from Marcus's own company were publicly supporting her, while distancing themselves from him. Vertex Solutions moved fast. By the next morning, Marcus Chen received an email from HR requesting an urgent meeting. By that afternoon, he was placed on administrative leave while the company conducted an internal investigation. The official reason given was conduct unbecoming of a company officer and violation of professional standards during official business operations. But everyone knew the real reason. The company needed to distance itself from the scandal as quickly as possible. Investors were asking questions. Clients were concerned about the company's leadership and judgment, and employees were sharing memes of their own VP in the company's Slack channels. The CEO released a carefully worded statement. Vertex Solutions holds its leadership to the highest standards of professional conduct. We are taking this matter seriously and conducting a thorough review. It said everything and nothing at the same time. Within a week, Marcus's resignation was announced. The company framed it as mutual, but insiders knew he'd been given 2 options: resign or be terminated for cause, which would have impacted his severance package and equity vesting. He chose resignation. His professional network began quietly disconnecting. Emails went unreturned. Lunch invitations dried up. The career he'd built over 15 years in tech was effectively over, not because he lacked skills, but because his name was now permanently associated with what the internet had dubbed the Zoom fail heard round the world. While Marcus's career crumbled, His personal life was completely destroyed. Rebecca filed for divorce exactly 9 days after the incident. Her lawyer was one of the best in the city, and the paperwork was airtight. She wasn't interested in reconciliation, mediation, or even conversation. She wanted out, and she wanted to pass that court documents, which eventually became public. Told a devastating story, Rebecca detailed not just the affair, but the lies, the manipulation, and the betrayal of trust that came with being caught in such a public way. She described the humiliation of co-workers sending her sympathy messages, of her own family members seeing the video, of strangers on the internet discussing her marriage. The settlement was brutal for Marcus. The apartment, which they'd purchased together, went to Rebecca. The division of assets heavily favored her, and because of the nature of the betrayal and the public humiliation, even Marcus's lawyer advised him to accept whatever Rebecca demanded rather than fight it, and risk even worse publicity. Friends who'd known them as a couple didn't know how to navigate the situation. Most sided with Rebecca or simply stopped reaching out to Marcus altogether. His own family was disappointed and distant. His parents, who'd adored Rebecca, struggled to even speak to him. As for Isabel Laurent, the other woman in the video, her involvement with Marcus ended the day after the call. She'd never signed up for public scandal, and once her identity was exposed, she wanted nothing to do with him. She deleted her social media, moved to a different city, and started rebuilding her own reputation far away from the mess. Marcus found himself alone in a small rental apartment, unemployed, divorced, and infamous for all the wrong reasons. Months later, the video still circulated. It had become one of those internet moments that gets resurfaced during best fails compilations or most awkward video call moments lists. Marcus's face had become a meme. His moment of panic when he realized something was wrong had been turned into reaction GIFs. Used across platforms. He tried to move on. He applied for jobs under a different variation of his name. He considered moving to another city or even another country. But in the age of Google, there was no escaping it. Every potential employer who searched his name found the video within seconds. Every first date who looked him up discovered the story before meeting him. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Marcus had been so focused on keeping his affair secret, so careful about not being caught in person, that he never considered the danger of being caught on camera during a work call from home. He'd gotten comfortable, complacent, and it cost him everything. Rebecca, meanwhile, had moved on with her life. She received so much public support that her own career actually benefited from the situation. She became something of a symbol for anyone who'd been betrayed and chose to walk away with dignity. She eventually wrote a viral LinkedIn post about rebuilding after betrayal that was shared hundreds of thousands of times. She didn't mention Marcus by name, but everyone knew who she was talking about. In the end, what destroyed Marcus Chen wasn't just the affair. It was the intersection of poor judgment, bad timing, and the unforgiving nature of modern technology. It was forgetting that in a world where everything can be recorded and shared, there are no truly private moments anymore. It was assuming that working from home meant working without consequences. 50 investors, one Zoom call, 12 seconds, and a life completely dismantled. The lesson isn't complicated. In the digital age, one moment of carelessness can be captured, shared, and weaponized in ways previous generations never had to consider. Your reputation, built over years, can be destroyed in seconds. And once something goes viral, there's no taking it back. Marcus Chen learned that lesson the hardest way possible. His career ended, his marriage ended, his privacy ended, all because he forgot one simple rule: when the camera is on, assume the whole world is watching, because these days they probably are.